The next section that we're going to look at is the student's first CSC. We're going to take a look at a good CSC. So as you see here, I'm just going to put it down on the next page to make it easier to read. They have a little introduction before they actually begin the two sections of their CSC. So you should be titling your CSC in a way that makes your reader know a hint about what they're about to read. So the popularization of plot-based video games. So she's going to talk about just plot-based stuff becoming popular, and because we know her thesis is that feminine pink games have influenced the industry, she's probably going to talk about relating back plot-based games to pink games, right? So let's look at this little introduction. There is substantial evidence that plot-based video games were a reoccurring attraction when the interests of girls were researched within the context of video games, and the popularity and frequency of plot-based video games has increased since their initial rise within the pink game movement. Awesome! Give us an overview of what you're about to talk about if you're subdividing your CSC sections into various sections. Remember too, if you subdivide your sections, it's the easiest way to seem intelligent with doing very little work to get there. Now, if you're having difficulty subdividing your sections, that means you probably didn't organize your evidence as well as you could have, like we talked about last week. Remember, there's ways to organize your evidence. Like you can organize, if you have a ton of research papers, you could organize introducing the evidence according to research findings or methodologies. You could also organize evidence chronologically. You can organize evidence in other ways as well, such as refutation. That's introducing the opposing viewpoint, then knocking it down with not alternative facts in the sense they're not real, but facts that prove them wrong. So maybe not the modern use of alternative facts. That's not what I meant there. So if you're organizing your evidence in some way, you're going to find it very easy to introduce subheadings, because that means you did a good job really delineating what goes where. In one of my responses to a student this last week, I said, try highlighting all the evidence that goes into one claim in like a pink highlighter, and evidence that goes into another claim in the yellow and another one in a green. And I was trying to show that if you do that, you can see if you're putting wrong pieces of evidence in the wrong spot. In other words, like if your subclaim is that students are helped emotionally if they go to school, and you were to highlight everywhere where you talk about emotions in your paper, if you're talking about emotions outside of that CSC section, that evidence is in the wrong spot. So highlighting evidence is a great way to see if you're scattered, if you're just scattering evidence everywhere where it shouldn't be. You should be able to categorize things quite nicely. So let's get into her first CSC subsection here. Notice the level 2 heading is fantastic. That's exactly how to do, actually that should be level 2, so no, it's almost fantastic. Level 2 is no period. Level 3 has the period and it is not capitalized, right? But level 2 is no period. So there are a few little mistakes here. Okay, so Women versus Girls Value Stories, great title. It was not until 1996 that the interest of girls in relevance to video games were researched, when the creator of the head of Purple Moon, Brenda Laurel, set out to make games with girls in mind. This research led to the conclusion that girls wanted strong stories and well-developed characters. Laurel worked to expand the possibilities of video games beyond violence that was frequent in most popular games at the time. Michelle Dickey, a professor at Miami State University with a doctorate in instructional design and technology, agrees that girls appreciate a good storyline, as well as the American Association of University Women reporting in their Journal for Educators. In the AAUW's focus group, girls said that the games that included role-playing, identity experiments, and simulations to work through real-life problems interested them, all features of video games that are plot-based. All right, so this is a great title. So it's saying that what girls value are really stories and simulations of real life right here. That's all plot-based stuff. So I'm not seeing necessarily CSC structure here. I suppose if I go to the very top here, she's talking about plot-based games, and then she's proving that girls value them. So at the very end here, I should see, yep, plot-based games were originally. So there is very good CSC structure in the entire CSC section, but not in individual subsections. You can do it either way. All right, pink games, modern games, and plot. Many early pink games were based on storytelling values, even before Brenda Laurel's research. In 1989, the plot-based game King's Quest V, designed by Roberta Williams, was released, which jump-started the inclusion of female protagonists in adventure games. In 1994, Hawaii High, Mystery of Tiki, reached many girls as an educational game, as that was where girls had the most access to games without intimidation by other players, and became the first game that was directly and outrightly created with girls in mind. Later in 1999, with female gamers ever increasing, EverQuest and I don't know what that is, was released. Dickey explains that the game began attracting a large female identifying user base because of its storyline and ability to interact in the community while in an open world exploration. All right, this is great. So looking at how games developed, kind of starting here and then moving forward, looking in timeline chronologically, how games developed. So this is in chronological order, but even beyond that, it's also divided by introducing value stories and then introducing the evolution of plot in chronological order. So very nicely done. You see this underlying organization of these sources in here and then moving all the way up to 2013 with that chronological order. Really intelligent CSC section in CSC form and underlying way to organize evidence. That's exactly what I'm looking for. Also, you see a lot of introduction of attribution here, of credentials of the authors. We see a lot of specifics. So she's giving me specific titles. That's very important as well. You want to be as concrete as possible. This could have been improved by showing me some user data, how many people were using these games in comparison to others. We don't have that here. So very good CSC section.